Into the wild I'll go, and into the wild I am. It's been a while, freedom child, since I left my roots back home. Into the wild I'll go, and into the wild I am. It's been a while, freedom child, since I left my roots back home.
Welcome to the Freebirths Society podcast. This is a radical space for women who are ready to celebrate their autonomous choices in birth, motherhood, and beyond. Together, we'll learn about wild birth through personal narrative, we'll explore the politics of birth, and we'll analyze everything that relates to our lives as women from a feminist perspective. Here's your host, Emily Saldea.
It's been a while, freedom child, since I left my roots back home.
Hello, women. Marion joins me on the show today to share her sweet, undisturbed birthing stories of her 3 children. Each of her stories are incredibly unique and a beautiful example of where intuition can guide a woman when she refuses to be influenced by the industrial obstetrical complex. Marion birthed her first baby, who was transverse until the very end, completely outside of the system, in a cabin from the 1800s in the woods, with an unexpected and beautifully sweet new friend supporting her. Marion's second birth took place in a teepee outside of the school bus she was living in, with women from her community singing to her from outside in the rain. Her most recent birth is a powerful story of passionate love and how being with a partner that you are in true, genuine union with can deeply change the experience of birth. Marion's a trailblazer of her own life, following her own compass in every step of the way, from skipping birth certificates for her babies to taking 1 year to name her first 2 children and claiming radical responsibility in all circumstances of her life. It was really a joy to hear her perspective on the world through her birth stories. Before we dive into her story, I want to share with you some really big, exciting news that we have going on over here at Freebirths Society. You may have already heard that the Radical Birthkeeper School is going to be opening its doors for enrollment in just a few weeks on March 11th. After running this program 7 times since 2020, we have really evolved it into what we think is now the perfect expression of what this program is really meant to be. So RBK 2024 is going to be completely different than ever before. We're making the program way more digestible, significantly easier to follow and absorb the material, and more financially accessible than it's ever been. We are only running the program 1 time in 2024, and the classes begin on April 15th. So make sure you sign up on the wait list below and be one of the first to enroll when we open doors. And if you're wondering, well, what if I want a longer, in-depth, high-touch mentorship program for learning real midwifery? Then don't worry, women, we've got you. Next week, we're going to be dropping all of the details about our brand new, one-of-a-kind, year-long midwifery school. It's called the Matrabirth Midwifery Institute. So stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss this. It's a big, big year, and I want you with us. Check out the links in the show notes to get on the wait list for both of these groundbreaking programs in 2024 and enjoy this episode with Marion.
We're on, baby.
We're on.
Long overdue.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to hear as much as we can in our little session today. I was saying to you before we were recording that you first came into my consciousness in an free birth related way. And I've been having this delightful experience over the last couple of years where women doing cool stuff in their own fields of expertise or whatever are coming into my awareness through my friends or whatever. Or their products, whatever it is. And then I'm discovering that they're free birthers. That's so fun. I love that so much.
Me too.
Yeah. So first shout out to Ariel, who sent me a little goddess ghee care package of your yummy products, which are going to be getting slung at MRF this summer. I'm so excited.
Yay.
And yeah, just welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. And yeah, it's fun. It was fun to make that connection and know that you had already had the ghee and like we have the free birth
Oh, I had the ghee.
connection.
I had the ghee.
Yeah.
All right. So, who are you? Who are you, lady? You've got 3 free birth and babies. We've got a lot of ground to cover today. So, take us where you want to start.
Yeah, well, my name's Marion and I where should I just go into it?
Yeah,
Like
I
what?
mean, like we were
Yeah,
saying
go
that
into
you
it.
have a
Okay.
12-year-old, and so
Mhm.
you're one of our OG free
Mhm.
birthers, right?
Mhm.
That'll be on the podcast because many women um are getting turned on to free birth through this podcast, but you, I would say, are more old school because
Mhm.
called it in and found out about it, and we're in the, what did you say, the underground Facebook
Yeah.
groups 12,
Yeah.
13
Yeah.
years
Yeah.
ago. So
Yeah.
let's start there. Like, because
Mhm.
you have a 12-year-old child. So who are you before that first pregnancy? And
Yeah.
how does unassisted childbirth, as it was called then, even like come into your consciousness?
Yeah. So yeah, 12 years ago is when I became pregnant. My son's 11, and
Okay.
I at that time didn't know anyone who had even had a home birth, much
Yeah.
less a free birth. And I was not in that culture at all or had that awareness, but I had one, like, I had seen a YouTube video of a home birth. That was pretty much all I knew, and hadn't really thought much about it at all before I was pregnant. But I was definitely on like a, um, I guess I would say like rebel path in a way of noticing in those years prior. Like, I mean, I was 28, but I was like, something's not right. Like something's really fucked with our culture and this whole thing. And so I was already just asking a lot of questions and a very curious person anyway. And then right after we found out I was pregnant, I was on this raw food email list, and this couple sent this email that said they had just had an unassisted birth.
Cute.
Yeah, and it wasn't a birth thing or anything. It just was like this beautiful synchronicity, and I was just looking at, yeah, like food stuff. And then they shared about their unassisted birth, and that it just like
Mm-hmm.
blasted me open into, oh, this is a possibility. Because I already knew from, day one of finding out I was pregnant that I wanted to have a home birth. I knew like I was not going to go to the hospital. And um, so then I found out about unassisted birth. And so I just started searching on Facebook, and I was scared to join, like to like the pages because anything public that would be shared on the news feed, because I didn't want anyone that I knew to see that I was even looking into that, because it was
Yeah.
so underground at that point. There, like, free birth wasn't even really a
No,
word yet.
totally.
And it was all of, like, it was very secretive. Like wasn't telling anybody, and I was just like, okay, let me look into this. And I think I read a couple books. I ordered a couple books, and I ended up getting
Sent to
like
an anonymous
invited.
address.
Yeah, exactly. And then I got like into these different secret groups, and then I would get like invites into, because then you start kind of in the public groups, and then somebody sends you an invite, and you get a little deeper and deeper into like the more OG, I guess, free birthers, and not so much just newbies questions. But what was cool was that because I didn't have anywhere to look on the internet really, or support around me, I ended up in a few groups where there was these free birthing mamas who had done it several times. And there was also even a couple midwives who were in support of free birth, like in the groups. And so I got to just go on there and ask questions all the time. And I pretty much, like, every day of my pregnancy was studying birth and learning about this stuff and learning from other moms who had done it before. And Yeah, there weren't, I don't remember. I was a rare person who was like, it was my first time being pregnant and studying that. Like most of the moms that had come into it came into it because they had bad experiences at first, and
Mm-hmm.
then they found that path because of their bad experiences. And so I just remember telling myself a lot, like, I just have to tap into the wisdom of all these mothers that have come before me and just know that, like, even though this is my first time, and that I have that, like, a whole lineage of women that have done this before me.
And that you
And so
don't need to first be abused
yeah, exactly.
to just have a normal birth.
Right. Yeah. I was like, I don't have to go through that experience. And so I was hearing their story, like they would share a
Mm-hmm.
lot of what they went through before. And that was really helpful and really fueled me to be able to make a lot of decisions that supported me. And throughout that whole pregnancy, I never went to a prenatal. I never got any testing or ultrasound. I just like did my own, like, ate well and took care of my body. And I researched all the different testing, but I just ultimately was like, I'm not going to do anything unless I feel like something's off.
Mm-hmm.
Like if something comes up and I feel like it needs to be looked at, then sure, I'll open myself up to that. But I'm not going to just like willingly go and get poked and prodded and tested and whatever and bring up like more. I had no desire to do that. So yeah, it was also, the pregnancy journey was just like, kind of, it was pretty isolating because I was being secretive about my path and I didn't have like in-person support. But I was so grateful for the women online that I found.
You sound like, in a way, you're just describing like a life, a chapter of your life that isn't completely overrun by fear,
Yeah,
right? Like,
totally.
it sounds like
Yeah,
you were tuning in, you were doing what you wanted, you had a sense of self-trust, you had a
yeah,
sense of direction and what you wanted, and that's all very simple, except for the fact that the vast majority of women aren't yet tuned into how to have a pregnancy not run by fear, or how,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
yeah. It's interesting because I think I actually had fear, but the fear was of the abuse of like
Sure.
getting in that. So
That's
that was
legit.
like,
That's legit. That's motivating shit.
yeah, I
Well,
was
yeah,
like,
thank God you had some awareness of the reality
right.
of what it's
Yeah.
like in there.
Yeah, I had that fear of like, I don't want to go through all of that. And
Well, it's
I had
normal. It's
already,
normal to feel fear and concern around being abused. It's not
mhm,
normal to feel fear around, how do I say this? It is normal to go, like, you're in the infinite beyond of pregnancy and da da da, but it's not I would say, like, the design for us to walk through a biological experience like
yeah,
pregnancy motivated by fear.
totally. Yeah. Yeah, I was more afraid of being mishandled by the medical system, which I had experiences, not pregnant, but just like when I was younger, had experiences where I'm just like, I don't think I trust these people to
Mm-hmm.
actually attune to me and know what I'm going through and what I need. So I had enough experiences like that, yeah, that I was just like, I'm afraid of that. And I really want to, it was also like I knew about imprinting. I learned that at some point along the way. And I also was just like, I really want my child to have a like beautiful imprint at birth and come in and we can bond and not have all of this disruption and
Yeah.
trauma. Yeah.
And so what's your environmental surrounding setup? You're being secretive, but, like, is your partner all down? What's your family dynamic, social dynamic
Yeah.
leading up to the birth?
I didn't really tell that many people that like they knew I was having a home birth. I would just say I'm having a home birth, but I wouldn't like mention anything else. And then my partner at the time, he he had actually had the experience of being at a home birth with a midwife before with a former partner. And so that was helpful. He was a little skeptical, like not sure, not totally on board with the free birth thing, but I just explained what I wanted and he supported. And my mom knew what I was planning and she definitely questioned me a lot and just like, she was like, what about I remember her asking me like, well, what about an episiotomy?
Yeah, exactly, Mom. What about it?
She was just pretty clueless about the whole thing. And I just educated her on what I knew and she trusted me. And my dad, they're not together. And I remember he's kind of tuned out. And so he called me like around my due time and he said, so you're gonna have a lady that comes, right? Like what do they call them, midwife? And I said, no, it's just gonna be us. And because I was so close at that point, and he said, oh, I'm not gonna tell my sister or his partner at the time. Like he was like, I have to keep this quiet because it's gonna stir up so much drama. And so he knew. So I was thankful for that he was willing to just like ignore that and turn the other way. And but yeah, I really didn't have, other than the online people that I found, I didn't have anyone that I knew that I was talking to that like had really any awareness that it was even a valid option.
Wow. It's so wild. Wow, so much has changed.
Yeah. I'm so
Okay.
glad.
So tell us your birth story.
Yeah. So let's see. So his name's Banyan, my first, and with him I went to 42 weeks. So that was like a whole navigation too, like, because I made the mistake of telling people like my due date. Yeah. And I mean, I think I told them the due month, or I said mid-December, but it was not that. And so people were asking and I was having to shoo them off. And yeah, so I went into labor at 42 weeks and he was transverse, like, and I knew that. So his head was like, I can't remember which side, like I could feel him kicking on one side, his feet, and then his head on the other side. He was really cradled in my belly. And I had never been pregnant before, so I didn't know actually what a gift that was because there was no pressure on my cervix at all. I later found that out with my other
Making
pregnancy.
lemonade.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I was like, I had no idea. So I just thought, okay, he's laying sideways. But because I had the support of these women online and stuff and learning, I knew that, the baby's going to come out. And I guess I'll get worried if a hand comes out first. But like right now, there's no reason to worry because I knew that, and I had learned that babies will even shift like during labor and in those contractions. So so yeah, I'm gonna try to tell the short version and just like the snippets because there's two more stories. But I was in like the setting was I was in this very old log cabin. It was built in 1897, and yeah, and I did have a birthing pool in the living room because honestly, at that time, like I'd only seen home births with water births and I didn't even question it. Like I was just like, oh, that's what you do. You get a pool and you set it up and it's this whole production in your living room. Which my second and third I didn't water birth, but I did with him. And so I had the pool and like the candles and the ambiance, and I labored for quite a while by myself and my partner was sleeping. It ended up being a 24-hour ordeal. And the next, morning, because it started at midnight, and the next day, I was just like in it, and it was just me and my partner, and that was the plan. But we were supposed to go, we were out in the country, so we were supposed to go into Asheville that day and pick up a mattress that we had ordered. And so I called this woman. I like had just moved to the area. I didn't really have any friends, but I called this woman, or I had him call this woman that I had met briefly, and she just happened to be like in the first like whatever session of Wapio's training when Wapio was still in Nashville. So she was doing her doula training, and she had never attended a birth or anything, but she was like in that vibe. And we called her and I said, "Can you deliver this mattress to us?" And she's like, "Sure." And I'm like, "I'm in labor." "Sure, I'd love to bring you anything you want."
Yeah, right. A mattress,
And so
sure.
so she came, and that was very unplanned. And when she got there, her energy was just so pure and felt so good to me, actually, to have her in this space. I didn't have like a great dynamic with my partner at that time. So
Yeah.
it was really nice to have her there. And she offered to just like leave. And I said, "No, I love it. I want you here." So she was there. And so when things got
She must
really,
have been so stoked.
oh yeah, she was
Like some
so
like
into it. Yeah.
random new free birthing chick wants you to come over. That's so
Yeah.
amazing. She will
Right
never
as she
forget
was
you.
Totally right as she was going into that work,
Mm-hmm.
like yeah.
How
And
affirming.
yeah. So yeah, it was kind of, my partner went to take a nap and I was like with her for a while. So I have a thing, I have like a lot of themes that carry over with all three births, and one of them is that my waters don't break until like the end. And so I yeah, I think my water broke around 8 p.m. And then that's when things really got like heated. And my partner was taking a nap, and her and I were just out in the living room, and we had candles going. And she was just singing me these beautiful songs.
Oh my
She just like,
God.
yeah, she just knows all of these gorgeous hymns and like medicine songs, and
Wow.
she's just out there and she's singing, and we're in the candlelight and I'm in the water, and I'm just like,
Awesome.
okay, this is good. And then I got to a point, I guess, transition. I got to a point where I hit that like, I don't know if I can do this. Like I was feeling it. And but I knew I was really clear in my values and the like what I was choosing, but I spoke that out loud to her. I looked at her, I remember looking at her, and it's like candlelit, and I'm like, "I don't know if I can do this." And she looked back at me and she's just like, "I'll be right back." And she got up and she went in the other room and she woke up my partner because she just knew. She was like, "Oh yeah, okay, you're close." And I was so thankful for that she like was able to just hold that sweet presence. And then he came out and got in the pool with me, and oh goodness, there were so many little things. Like um yeah, I felt down there, and I felt something squishy, and I thought I was feeling the cord, like I'd heard about cord prolapse, and I was like, "Can you look?" And so she shined a light and saw hair, and my son was just crowning. And then yeah, I just felt so much relief. And then so there was like, because it was my first, there was some like, am I gonna
First.
be okay? And then he came out. I did not push like voluntarily, because I had learned about the fetal ejection reflex, and I was actually like resisting pushing, like I could feel him like the crowning, and I was just kind of like waiting and not trying to make anything happen. And he came out, and it was just like such a beautiful, beautiful moment. And trying to think. Oh, so okay. The other theme that runs through all three births is that once the babies are out, my placentas I don't like have contractions or an urge to push, or I don't like birth my placentas in the way that I've heard of. And so after he came out, I went and like squatted over a bowl and I tried to kind of push a little bit and nothing happened. And I waited and like hours went by and I was nursing him and he was still, attached with the cord and the placenta was still in me. And even though I had heard like, an hour or whatever that you're supposed to get it out, I was so in the moment with him and with the baby, like with the whole thing that I wasn't really concerned about it. And then I think we took a nap, and by the time then it had been like 16 hours or something, and I was like, I guess I should probably figure this out. Like then I started getting a little worried. And so I
Yeah.
went on the group and I said, hey, it's been like 16 hours since my birth. And I was trying like smelling pepper, like black pepper to sneeze to get it out and all these funny things. And I just didn't know. And so I got on a phone call with someone in the group and she just asked some questions about blood loss and like verified that it seemed like I was fine and that it was just kind of like lodged, like hanging out up there. And so I asked my partner, he just like kind of gently tugged on the cord while I gave a good push and it came right out. And it was like the best feeling ever. So there was a little bit of stress after that I just wasn't expecting that because everything I had seen was just like, yeah, then you birth your placenta. So in the next couple births, I did not wait that long and just waited a couple hours and then tugged on the cord myself and pushed it out. So I'm wondering if there's anything else about
Okay,
his
wait, I have a
birth.
question.
Yeah.
Is this angel woman still in your life?
Yes, definitely.
Does she
So,
go on to become a midwife? Like what's
she
her deal?
was doing, yeah, she was doing doula work for a while and she attended lots of births in very like hands off, just beautiful, supportive ways. And now she's actually doing death doula work. And she's like, she's working, yeah, she's just doing beautiful work in the world. She's working with moms who have lost children and creating like spaces for them. Or, yeah. And she also was the one who first told me about ghee. So
Ah,
after, yeah, so
okay,
after I had my baby,
this is a very
yeah,
important woman for you.
yeah, yeah, after I had him and he was like a little bit fussy and we were nursing and she was like, maybe cut out dairy and you can eat ghee. And she taught me how to make it. And then I ended up creating a ghee business years later.
Amazing.
So yeah, so she catalyzed a lot, but yeah, she's still in my life and still a really dear friend.
So then who are you as you have this baby and learn motherhood and have this birth at your back? What
Yeah.
wants to get said to get us into the next pregnancy?
Yeah. I feel like having that experience really helped me. For me, it was like such a powerful initiation into trusting myself as a mom and trusting my intuition and being able to make decisions that maybe would seem like radical or whatever to other people. But I feel like the way that I navigated pregnancy and birth, like helped me um, make decisions from that point forward that were just really clear in my boundaries, really prioritizing like myself and family. And yeah, like I think it influenced all kinds of ways that I parent after that. And um I had the other thing that was really cool about my friend Siobhan is that because she was in the matrona class, and I didn't really have any friends, like I said, I just moved to the area. And so she went back to her class and she told them this
Yeah.
beautiful Freebirth story. And she made a meal train for me and they all signed up on the meal train.
Oh my God. Women are
And
so amazing.
yeah, so I had all of these women that were in
Oh,
that field coming
wow.
and bringing me meals and tending to me, and
Wow.
like that became my community, and that really
Wow.
opened me up to like, yeah, community and kind of building like a village around myself and
That is
being around
so
people who
epic.
support. Yeah, it was
You just like
amazing.
land into that. Damn,
Yeah,
that is so
yeah.
awesome.
And I
Okay,
just
can you
randomly met.
bring this angel woman to MRF with you?
Yeah, I'll invite her. And I just randomly met her. We were at a music festival and I asked to try on her boots because I liked her boots and I was like, "Can
Cute.
I try those on? I think I want to get some of those boots." And that's how we
Cute.
met. It was just like this random
Love
like,
it.
"I like your boots." And then she just
I
was
mean,
such the biggest.
boot love is a deep love. That actually
You
makes
need
sense
good
to me.
boots.
Yeah.
Yeah, good boots matter, especially if you live in the mountains.
Exactly. If they're stylish and good for your feet, I love you.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
yours.
Yeah.
Okay, so then it
Well,
sounded like maybe you switch partners when we get into the second baby?
no, so I had the same partner for my second
Okay.
baby and was still just trying to make it work with him, and he's awesome to co-parent with, and he supported my birth choices and like
Nice.
parenting style, so that's been great, but like as far as a romantic partner, it was just like not a match. So he yeah, so we had a rocky relationship though, and like even in my second pregnancy I actually moved out. I left. I moved to a different place onto some friend's land, and I was living in this broken down school bus with my 1-year-old
Oh
Banyan at the
God.
time. And then his dad was like living in in the area, but in a different place. And we were trying to work it out. And so that pregnancy was pretty rough,
Yeah.
because I was just like trying to find my ground and figure out if I was going to be in that relationship and all of that. And I was living in this broken down school bus and I was due in like late June and it was super hot. And
Mm,
so I was very clear, like, I don't want to have my baby in this bus. I was on this friend's land. And a friend suggested, she's like, "Well, I have a teepee. I could just put up a teepee for you." And I was like, "That
mm.
sounds great. Let's do that." So, and then that was cool. Like we didn't have poles for it. So a couple like of my friends' partners went and harvested bamboo and like
Aw.
it was this whole ceremony where people came together and put up this birth teepee for me. And um at that point I was really clear. Two things had really become clear from my first birth. And one was that I was like, I don't want a water birth. They were trying, we'll set up a pool or a thing. And I'm like, no. Like because what I noticed with my water birth with Banyan is that the being in the pool and being set there like felt restrictive to me. Like
Totally.
I
I
wanted
could
to
not do
move
it.
more. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't like it actually. And so I was like, no, I'm really clear. I want to be on land and I don't want to have the restriction of the
Yeah.
pool or a bathtub. And so that was clear. And then the other thing was that I was like, I really want to labor alone and like spend more time like not having other people in my field and
Yeah.
really like be able to tune in. Cause I do feel like with my first, I was kind of looking out a
Of
little
course.
more than like to my friend that was there or to my partner.
Which I do think
Um,
kind of that is the evolution
yeah,
that we see that I think is really
right.
sweet and understandable and like kind of how it goes,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. So yeah, so some friends set up this teepee and again, I was like over my 40-week time and and it wasn't ready. It was like we didn't have anything in there. And I started having contractions and we started preparing the space, me and my partner. And again, I
So
didn't
wait,
invite.
were you living in the teepee?
So no, I was living next. So there was a broken down school
Oh,
bus that we
still
were
in there.
living in, and then the teepee was
I
right
see.
next to the
And
bus. And
then
so
your partner was living elsewhere, but
he
he
was living
came.
elsewhere, but he came, yeah, he
Okay.
was like, we were trying to figure it out. And so he was there, and I went into labor, and the next morning after kind of having a night thing, I remember I was out there and he was like trying to move a futon into the teepee to just have some cush, and like putting like a compost toilet in there, like a bucket basically in there, and getting it comfortable for me. And this huge downpour came, and water was like flooding into the teepee because they hadn't built a trench around it.
Oh
And so I'm like
no.
mid in between contractions, like sweeping water.
Damn. Hey, that keeps it real. Doesn't that make you
Sweeping the
appreciate
water up.
just like how far we've come?
Yeah. And so him and a friend who showed up dug a trench really quick. They resolved it. It was fine. We got it all cozy. And then that next night, that was also this second labor was a longer labor, which is interesting because everybody told me like, oh, it'll be faster. And it wasn't, but I think it was because I had one really clear intention, which I'll share. But the second night, I remember I was alone. There was a fire in there, and I was just like in my groove. And my partner was actually going and just warning some neighbors, like, "Hey, she's in labor. Don't call the police if you hear her screaming or something." And a friend showed up, this guy, and I remember he's like, "Hello, Marion." I'm like, "Hey, I'm okay." And it's just, I remember he was like very like, "Oh my gosh, she's just in there by herself in the teepee in labor." But he was chill and he left and it was fine. So the reason why I think um, that labor was longer was because I had a really clear intention that I wanted my son there.
Mm.
And he was 18 months at the time. And I really wanted him to be a part of it because he was still breastfeeding. And I just like felt like it would be a really good bonding experience for him to like be in that energy with his new sibling coming in. And um, so yeah, I think I kind of jinxed the timing because or made it longer because it ended up working out where when she came, it was like perfect timing in the afternoon, right after he woke up from his nap and the whole thing.
Aw.
So yeah, so I'll go into that. So I had not invited anybody to that birth, and I had even told my partner, like, I don't even really want you there. I kind of just want to have a bell and like ring it if I need something, and you can like, I'll call you in like when the baby's actually coming out, kind of thing, and you can bring in Banyan, y'all can come in. And but I think because it was going on so long, he just like started telling people. And so friends kind of started congregating outside, which was not like what I would have asked for at all.
No.
Um, but it ended up being that it was friends who like really could hold the space. And it ended up being really sweet. Actually, there was one friend who I told him to have her leave because she had like recently had a traumatic birth
Aw.
experience, and I could just like sense her
Yeah.
fear, and I just was like, I don't want that here. But everyone else was just like out there, and I didn't even like, it was like they weren't there for me. But the moment that I really appreciated was really close to her coming out. I was walking the teepee in a circle. And every time that I would have a contraction, I would just like hold on to one of the poles and squat down and like hang from it. And I loved that like rhythmic, just like walking the circle. It was such a beautiful place to give birth. Um, and same thing, like the waters broke on but it was like on the earth, which is really cool. And there's like this whole
Mm.
like flower field where the teepee used to be, where her
Aw.
like where she was born, or this like little like circle of poppies. So anyway,
That's
um,
cute.
yeah. So I the women who were outside of the teepee were singing, and I just remember like I wasn't tuned into the fact that anyone was out there until there was this moment where I'm walking and I'm stopping and like being with the surges, and I hear this just light, gentle tapping of rain on the teepee canvas with the
Mm,
background of these women's voices. And
mm,
they're singing this song that they learned in the Matrona. And the verse that I hear is, it's like, so birth, my sister's birth,
mm,
draw your strength up from the earth, for how you birth is what you are, and
mm.
you're wise in the ways of the woman by far.
Wow.
So I had never heard that song until that moment. And then I'm just like
Ugh.
in it and I'm hearing this like chorus of
Wow.
of these women singing this to me while like my daughter is about to come out. And it was just like the most beautiful, euphoric feeling that I've really ever had. Like
So
that was
beautiful.
just, it was incredible. And then I felt like I was getting really close. And so I, yeah, rang my little bell and my partner came in.
I love
He
it.
came in and brought my son. And I didn't ask him to do this, but he actually just stood way back, my partner, and snapped some pictures from my phone. And those are the pictures that I sent you a couple years ago. And my son, who was 18 months, like, was so present, and he her head emerged out of me, and there's this picture where he's just standing there and he's pointing to her head and he's just saying baby, 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 and
Sweet.
he was just like, he was basically like the midwife. Like he's just like right there, like ready to receive her. And my partner was standing back taking photos, and I was really grateful he did, because those are so precious to me, to see Banyan like welcoming his sister into the world, and they have such a karmic connection. They have each other's half birthdays.
Oh,
Yeah.
cute.
Yeah. So
And is her name Poppy?
her name is Maple.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, Banyan and Maple, my little
Did you name
saplings.
all your kids trees?
I did it, not the last one. But I can, and actually I didn't name, so because I free birthed and I like didn't have to do a birth certificate or anything, I didn't name my kids for a long time.
Like how
Like
long?
Banyan, I gave him his name at his first birthday.
What?
Yeah.
What did you
And
call
actually
him?
we called him Boo Boo.
Oh my
People, it was
God.
so funny because people would be like, "What's your baby's name?" And I would just be like, "Boo Boo."
Boo Boo. I named him Boo Boo.
But
Oh.
Siobhan, my friend who was there at his birth, said that she had heard of people like waiting and just feeling it out. And so I did that, and we had this fun like naming ceremony at his
Cute.
first birthday. And I knew his name for a while before that, but I really like, I actually also did, you mentioned like you kind of came into a new family name, and I did that too. I had a dream that his last name was Hearth, and then I ended up taking on that name too, and that's like our whole family name. And
Hmm. Did
um
did the partner that you're no longer with, does he also have that last name?
yeah, he took on that last name, not legally, but he like
Okay.
he joined the matriarchy. So um and so yeah, so and then with Maple, we also did a naming ceremony for her at her first birthday, but I didn't even catch any wind of her name until she was like 6 months old
Wow.
and
What'd you
had
call
no
her?
idea.
What'd you call her?
We just called her baby girl.
Oh my God.
Very original. Baby girl.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Was it hard to get a birth certificate waiting that long?
So, okay. I was very in the sovereign citizens camp at that
Hmm.
time, and was very on the fence of whether or not I was going to get them or if I was going to wait until they were older and could choose. And so I didn't get either of theirs. But I've done like the whole paperwork process for the delayed birth certificates. And I think it's going to be a fairly straightforward thing. I know a couple other people who've done it. And I'm planning to do it this year because with my third, we did just get hers.
So you
And then,
didn't get birth certificates, but you're going
mm-mm.
to now.
Yeah, I'm going to now. They're 9 and 11, and I think that yeah, it's gonna
Okay, 2 follow-up questions real quick. So
yeah.
that would also mean they don't have socials?
Mhm.
And so forgive my ignorance, but does that mean you haven't traveled with them?
That means they can travel domestically, like they can go on a
Well,
flight in
yeah.
the US, but they can't. And I tried, so I know one family who like was able to somehow get a passport for their baby without the social and birth certificate. And I thought that I could do that, but I tried to do it and
Right.
it
Okay.
wasn't gonna work.
So
So
what
yeah.
changed for you that you weren't going to do it and now you are?
I just over, the last like 11 years since I made that decision with them, because they were very close, 18 months apart. I just realized like I'm not sure that the pros are weighing out the cons. Like
Yeah,
I haven't been able
definitely.
to claim them on taxes. I haven't
Oh
like,
dear.
yeah, like and I'm just like, is this really worth it? And I think that I was doing it in like a protective way of like, I don't need to get my kids in the system right away and they can get in there later. But I did make sure to get like proof of pregnancy, like forms and stuff like that, and got my paperwork so that I would have it so that it would be easier when I was ready to get it. Um, so yeah, I just this time I'm like, I don't think that I need to do that. And I feel ready to get them for my older kids.
There's been
Um,
there's a lot, it's a question I get a lot. And there's a lot of interest
yeah,
in my community around it. And I'm not an expert on it because I did choose to get it because I pretty much was like, the juice is worth the squeeze. Like the
yeah,
benefits that my kids slash I get from documenting them and registering them
yeah,
is worth it. Also, I do live in the system.
yeah,
Like you just said, like kind of the irony is like the paying taxes. Like
yeah,
I pay taxes.
yeah,
I'm here. I'm
right.
here
Yeah,
participating in this
totally.
society, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
Yeah,
The whole free birth thing, and it's like pick and choose. Not just pick and choose your battles, but also, um, what's that terrible expression? I wish I knew a better one, but like not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's a terrible expression,
it's so
especially for
bad.
this podcast. But
Yeah,
like, there's lots of wonderful aspects of
right.
the society I choose to live inside of,
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
and there is a
Yeah.
give take.
Yeah, I think that at that phase in my life, I just didn't know if I was like going off
Totally.
grid and like what things were gonna be like. And I was new at parenting, so I was
Mm-hmm.
just like kind of leaning more towards like that um that radical way. But
Mm-hmm.
now I have a business and I filed
Exactly.
taxes and like, so I think I was just kind of young and like trying to
Mm-hmm.
get free. And to me that just felt like the right thing at that time. And in hindsight, I'm like, I probably should have just
Mm-hmm.
got the things done rather than having to do it now. And when I just recently went, me and my partner just recently went and got the birth certificate and social for our 7-month-old daughter. And it was so chill and like not as intimidating or weird as I thought
You're
maybe it
like,
would
while
be.
I'm
Like,
here, could I get a
yeah,
threefer?
I
I
did
actually have
ask
these other
them.
older kids.
Yeah, I told them, I was like, so do y'all do delayed birth certificates? And they were like, sorry, we can't do that here. You got to go to
Uh,
the capital. Like, so I'm going to be on that journey. But I feel good about that. It'll be fair. I've done all the paperwork. I just have to
Totally.
send it in.
I mean, they
Um,
want you to do it.
yeah,
So
exactly.
if you want
Yeah.
to do it, I'm
Yeah.
sure
They're going to
it'll
help
work.
me
Yeah.
find a way. Yeah.
Okay, so then big changes between the second and the third, and a
Yeah.
whole new partners in town. So what
Yeah.
what happens from there?
Yeah. So, I yeah, a couple like right after my baby was born, I started Goddess Ski, and that really helped me get out of that relationship and us into a good co-parenting dynamic because that was just not a relationship I was really going to thrive in. Um, and then what, like, I mean, my Maple is 9 years apart from my new baby. So I had a big window there, and I definitely for a while was like, I would love to have that experience of having a baby with somebody that I actually want to be with and that I love. And because I didn't get to have that the first time. I had these like amazing birth experiences and like postpartum support and community and like very beautiful mothering journey, but things with my partner, just it was like I didn't have, there was something that I wasn't getting the experience of in that. And so I yeah, got together with my current partner a little over 2 years ago, and he's a little younger, and I was like I'm about to turn 40, and so like, he asked me, do you want to have, well, actually, okay, so Maple, the first time that she met him, we are all having dinner, and he and I we were newly dating, and he and I had been dating for like a couple months, and she looks across the table at me and she says, Mom, do you want to have more kids? And she had never, this was not a conversation that we were talking about
And
at
she's
all.
like 7.
Yeah, and she's
Yeah.
7, and he's there for the first time, and I'm kind of embarrassed because I'm like, oh my gosh, we're just newly getting to know each other, and this is not like something that I really
Welcome to
want to
dating
answer
a
in front of him.
mom.
And so she asked that, and I was like, oh, why do you ask? I don't know. And, there was something in my heart that was really like, yeah, I would love to have another baby or two, like with somebody that I'm stoked to be with. And so then she kept asking, like when he would come around, she would ask him if he wanted to have kids. She was like really on the case. And then we started talking about it. And then I was getting pretty clear hits that I wanted, yeah, that I was ready. And he was still like, I don't know, trying to figure it out. But we conceived, and the due date was like a day apart from Maple's, like kind of thing. And Maple was like, the baby's gonna come on my birthday.
Aww.
And everybody was like, are you sure you want the baby to come on your birthday? Don't you want your own? And she's like, she's a Cancer, and she's like so nurturing. And she's like, no, 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 this is my baby. I called this baby in. Like, this baby's coming on my birthday.
Cute.
And sure enough, she had a baby sister on her birthday.
Wow.
And I remember my partner just told me the other day that I was like deep in labor, and I looked at him and I was like, Maple's such a witch while I was in it, because I realized like it's her day.
It's her baby too.
It's her baby. And so yeah, so they have the same birthday, and then they share a half birthday with their
That's a
daughter.
trip.
So cool. So anyway, so this time, yeah, my partner definitely didn't have any birth experience or free birth, like awareness, but he knew that I had done that with my other two.
Yeah.
And he was like
That's how you
super on
roll.
board, just, yeah, trusting of my decision. And he had a little bit of anxiety coming up when it was getting closer to the birth of like holding that role and that responsibility. And he like facilitates men's circles and is like deep in men's work stuff. And so he has a lot of support there. And he asked me if his like his best guy could just like be on the land to support him, but not me. And I was like,
what?
as long as yeah. He was like, I was like, as long as he can just like really stay out of the space. And because I think he was like,
I can't just text him. Oh my God. Okay, way to make the birth about him, but that's okay.
Yeah, totally. This is somebody who like I felt really comfortable with, and I was like, yeah, if he can like hold the space and not be in our space at all, but like just be tending a fire like over on the land over there, then I'm fine if you want to have like someone here. I think my partner was
Did you just birth in like a boring old house this time?
So this time, yeah, I really would have loved to birth in a teepee again, but we live on like a cliff, like the side of a mountain, and so there was no flat space. So we live in a yurt. Our yurt is like on the edge of the mountain kind of thing, and then we built right up until like literally this cabin that I'm in right now is next to our yurt, and it's our bedroom. We call it the nest because we were building it as I was pregnant, and it was complete. Like we moved our bed in the day before I went into labor. So we were in this is like our birthing nest that I'm in right now. And yeah, just a boring, brand new little cabin. And I, let's see, what are some people? So he was like feeling some nervousness and just wanted like someone else like that he feels like he could like fall into if he was having a hard time or something. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I trust is our friend Hunter. I was like, I trust him to like hold it down and be over there. And so mostly it was just us, and I really with him, it's interesting, like with my other partner, with the second time, I was like, I don't even really want you around. Like, I really want to be in my own field, where my relationship with my partner now is like so much more intimate, and I really trust him. He's held like immaculate space for me going through like deep processes before. And I just know that like I love having him there. And so I really trusted him to be like right there and like with me. And so yeah, so it was like a very way more sensual like kissing and just like we like had this whole set up this whole birth altar and candles and music, and it was just like a very more like I would say romantic experience. And I never even saw his friend Hunter really. Like he was outside like tending a fire like away from us, and he wasn't really in this space at all. And yeah, and so that that process was like 22 hours, which is my shortest yet. I don't know. I'm like, what is with this? And same thing, like, oh, one thing I didn't share about Maple's birth, which I could send you a gory picture, is that at some point I felt this little bubble. Like I never check myself or put my fingers in there or anything during any of my births or do any stuff like that. But I, at some point, just like touched down there and I felt this little bubble, and I told her dad, I rang my bell and I told her dad, and he came in and he's like, oh my gosh. And he takes a picture, and it looks like I'm birthing a pearl because the bag of waters is like, it's like this translucent white,
Cool.
like beautiful bubble coming out. And he's like, it looks like you're birthing a pearl. Which is,
Aww.
yeah. And then that ended up happening again this time, where I like felt down there and felt something, and I was like, oh yeah, I know what this is. And I took a selfie picture of it, and this time it was more of like a blue translucent bubble. And then very shortly after that, my water broke, and then it was probably about 2 hours until she came out. And I, towards the end, was getting very tired. And so I was kind of like on my ass, just like on the sheepskin rug on the floor. And I was tired, and I was kind of like pretty over it. And then my partner had hung a sheet from the loft. I'm sitting up in a loft, so like from the beam that the loft is on, he hung a sheet. And at one point he was like, said something like, do you want to get up? And I was just like, yes, I definitely have to get up. I know that this baby wants to come out, and I'm just resisting it. I'm like trying to just like buckle down on the floor. And so I got up and I walk over to the sheet to go hang on it and squat. And he starts heading for the door to go like switch out the laundry or something. And I'm like, no, don't leave. Catch the baby. He was just not expecting that I was that close. And he like kind of dives back over, and because and I wasn't even expecting this at all. I don't even know why. So I think it was just instinctual that I was like, because I was holding on, like I was like holding on the sheet like that and squatting. And she just flew out of me in one swoop, which was the first time that that's happened. Normally, like their heads come out and then it's like a slower process, but she just shot out like a slippery rocket and he caught her. So I was really glad that, because I was like, I couldn't, I love the idea of catching my own, like women catching their own babies. And I'm
I
like,
can't figure it out.
physically, like,
I
do
don't know.
not.
I don't understand.
I don't understand either. And so I've never, yeah. So it was really great to just be able to like hang and squat. And then she just like slipped right out into his hands. And he just immediately burst into tears. And he said like for him, it was like when her body like came into his hands that he just like had this access to all of life and this like portal that is like, it was pretty undescribable, but it was just like a very, very magical moment for him. And you could see it in him. Like he was just instantly crying. And such a beautiful, I think like a really beautiful imprint on like their bond. And then immediately like, you know, she was with me in nursing and yeah, it was epic. And then same thing. I mean, because I've lived in this area now and how all these connections, we just had like a really amazing postpartum. I feel like the best I've had, you know, I've had it good like all 3 times, but this was just so much support and sweetness and got to really do it well.
So was Maple bummed she didn't get to be at the birth?
You know, I asked them if they wanted to be. I gave them the option and they didn't for some reason. Like they were like, no, we're okay. Just call us when the baby comes out and we'll come. And they just happened to be at their dad's when it happened. And so they weren't even here. And I think it was, yeah, fine that way for me. Like I liked the intimacy of just like me and my partner. And yeah, and if they had wanted to, then I would have loved to welcome them there, but they weren't really like, they were like, we want to just be right there, right? And so they came over pretty much right away and saw her. And then, so with this one's name, everybody was like, yeah, is it going to be another tree? And I was like, I don't know. It's not really, I just kind of
Is she even going to get a name?
Yeah.
Is the first question.
Totally. So yeah, we waited. It was probably like a couple months and I had a pretty strong intuition that her name was going to come to my partner, even though my other ones like came through me and like it was very much me that did it. I just was kind of like, I'm going to wait and see what comes through him. And then if I don't like it, then I'll just veto and pick. And so yeah, one day he was just like washing dishes or whatever in the yurt and he comes out and he's like, I just had this name just drop in like out of nowhere. And I was like, what is it? And he says marrow, like the marrow bone. And I just instantly like teared up and had chills. And I was like, that's such a deep, powerful, beautiful name. And let's just like sit with it. And he looked up the etymology and it was just like really such a beautiful, beautiful name and not anything that I'd ever heard of. And I could tell that it like came like in a way that wasn't from him. He was just like, whoa, this just came. And yeah, I just kind of like, we kept looking at her over the next few weeks and just like trying it on and asking if there was any other name and like nothing else was there. And it was just so clear.
What if it was like, I just got the name, like it just landed and you're like, what? And he's like, Kathy.
Right. Tanya.
Just like just a really average American name.
Totally.
Nope, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah, I would have just been like, no way.
Hey, no, I'm not hating on Kathy's. That's a maternal family name for my
Kathy.
lineage.
Yeah. But yeah, like not something like Banyan
like
or
a
Maple
normal,
or whatever. Yeah. I know well, it was funny when she was an infant and we didn't have a name yet, and people would ask us what the name is, and he would very seriously look at them and say, Bile.
And what would they do?
They were just like, oh, cool. Like not like act or
God.
if they knew his personality, they would be like, whatever, what's her name?
Mhm.
So yeah, there was a lot of joking around like weird names and stuff, but
So did he take
yeah.
the Hearth last name?
He is not, he was very open to her having my like,
She
my
had
last
to.
our family. Yeah, totally. So that wasn't an issue for him at all, but he hasn't like taken that on. Which is interesting. Maybe I don't know, he's gonna listen to this, so we'll see.
Wait, so is your legal last name Hearth?
No, it's not. So I haven't changed it legally, but
Okay.
now, so really technically Marrow is the first one who has the legal last name Hearth because my other two, their birth certificates are
Right.
like pending, so they
Right.
will. And then I haven't changed it legally. And who knows, maybe at some point that will happen for him, but he's not worried about it and he's happy with her having the same last name as me. And
If you guys do a legal, if you do a legal marriage, you can get your last names changed for free
yeah, yeah,
versus like it's like $500 or something to do it
right.
on your own.
Yeah, we're talking about um marriage at some point, ceremony, and like, do we want to do a legal thing or not or whatever? And so that's like still we're kind of doing things backwards.
Yeah. It's all good. There's no way. There's no one way.
Right.
You started the whole episode saying you were on the rebel path.
Yeah. Yeah. But
So tell us
yeah.
before we close out, tell us about this, cool new program you're cooking up and where
Mhm.
women can find you.
Yeah. So yeah, so for the last 12 years since I've been on this path, I've pretty much been just um sharing and teaching and mentoring like anybody who will listen and friends along the way. And I've turned several friends on to the free birth path or taught people about um, just like like attachment parenting values. And recently, and I've known for a while that this really feels like my soul work. And now that my business, Goddess Key, feels a little more like stable and I don't have to tend to that as much. And I have this new baby, I have a lot of excitement into putting some more energy into this work. So I'm starting a website just under my name, Marion Hearth. And I also have an Instagram under that same name. And I'm launching a 13-week group container that basically just supports people in navigating decisions through like early, like stepping into motherhood and that initiation. So there will be lots of stuff around attachment parenting and obviously free birth stuff. And I'm just going to be sharing all the things like breastfeeding mentorship and co-sleeping, elimination communication. I did 0 diapers on my last 2 babies.
Nice.
Yeah, and I tried it with my first and like kind of half-assed it a little bit and also did cloth diapers, but with my last 2, they never wore a diaper from birth.
Okay,
Um,
that's amazing.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been
From
awesome.
birth?
Yeah, from birth. I never ever put a diaper on Maple or Marrow. And Marrow's 7 months and like going on the potty, like we just have a little potty and put her
Can
on
we
there.
just take a beat there real quick? So,
Yeah.
does obviously different ages like they do different stuff, but she's never been in a diaper. Okay. So, be honest. How often does she shit and piss on you? Be honest.
Yeah,
And
totally.
and like is there any sort of cueing that's going on at 7 months?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Or is it mostly preventative?
it's kind of a mixture of both. So I I noticed at birth really early on, like right out out of the womb, the babies will start to squirm and like, when they have to pee or they have to eliminate, they'll get all squirmy and fussy. And so you can kind of tell.
Mm-hmm.
But then, so it's still like that, like she'll kick and kind of squirm. But then also we know her rhythm. So like right after she nurses, I know
Yeah.
she's gonna pee a couple times. Like, and pooping, um, she went through a phase, like when she was an infant, it was very sporadic and random. So it was like, okay, she's squirting every time she pees kind of thing. But then that leveled out after a couple months and we went through a nice phase where she would only poop in the morning right when she woke up. So
Yeah.
like right when she woke up, put her on the potty, she'd poop, and then the rest of the day is just pee. Lately, we've had a couple surprises, and
Mm-hmm.
with EC, it just like there's ebbs and flows with the whole thing, and you
Yeah.
just kind of got to ride it out. But I can honestly say because I cloth diapered my first, that like I got pooped on anyway, like the blowout diapers or whatever. Not like there was still like crazy messy like blowout diaper situations when I was diapering. So not anything like more crazy than that. And
But arguably, a diaper, the poop's going in the diaper,
yeah.
not.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I just had like not very good cloth diapers because I feel like it would just like come out of the sides
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I've only ever known one other
sometimes.
woman this woman Amanda, who's a free birther in California, who I met her daughter, who's like maybe 4 months old or something, and she
Mhm.
just pulled her out of the car seat with no diaper, and it was this little baby who's never had a diaper on her, and
Yeah.
her little tiny butt in her jumper because there was no diaper, and was like, wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what we're doing. And it worked really well with Maple. Like, I found that it wasn't really any more work than diapering. It just requires you to be more present in the moment and you have to be
Hmm.
like more on it in that moment. So
Sure.
it's kind of like you do it. It's like because Bandit, like he would never stay in a wet diaper. So as soon as his diaper was wet, I had to change him anyway. So I'm really just
Hmm.
like putting
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
effort ahead of the thing and just
Mm.
doing it beforehand. And so now we were making sounds for her to cue her to go, but now she just knows. Like I just set her on the potty
Hmm.
and she knows, or if I hold her in that position with my hands under her thighs and I just say pee, she just
Hey,
she pees.
baby.
And now, yeah. And so now I'm starting to teach her sign language. So I'm doing like the potty
Yeah.
sign when I go, so that pretty soon she'll be able to do that and
Hmm.
let me know when she wants to go to the potty.
Yeah, I
Um,
feel like we were
so
doing
yeah.
really good with our boy until he started walking. And then, like,
Yeah.
it's just a whole new world with the walking. And he's
Yeah.
so,
On the move.
yeah, doing his thing. I mean, the poop
Right.
we have, he's same thing. He just wakes up, poops in the potty. That's fine. That's not
Yeah.
an issue. But when we do have the random later in the day poops, there's no like he
Yeah.
it's completely whereas Sunie, my daughter, at the same age, she would come over and get us and be like, and like she did not want to poop in her diaper.
Yeah.
Sawyer just seems like he could care less, even though we've done all the same stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. They're all a little
Girls rule,
different with
boys
it
drool.
too. Totally.
Might be
Yeah.
the name of your episode.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's one thing I do notice though with doing the EC from birth is that they tend to have like I remember learning like there's this whole like um urinary sphincter muscle that when babies just go in diapers all the time and they're not having to kind of contract and
Yeah,
hold it until they get to the potty, then they start to lose the tone in that. And then they don't have as much muscle tone there. And so then they're more likely to kind of just go
totally.
uncontrollably. And so when you do it, like I noticed for her, she'll hold, like she'll be like, holding it until she needs to go. And she won't, just like hold it forever. If we're not
Of course.
available, she'll just go. But like, so I think it can help it to do it pretty consistently and
Yeah,
from
just
the
got to be
from the
so on it.
get-go.
Totally.
Yeah, you do really have to be on it. And you have to have like, it'd be hard to do it if I was just doing it myself and my partner wasn't on board or
Totally.
present or somebody like other people weren't helping with it. So
No, it's
um
constant.
yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna do like a whole 13-week
Cool.
group that each week will like really dig into different topics, and this is one of them. And then um birth, my whole like I think that there's a lot of people who aren't ready to free birth, or maybe it's like not for them yet, but like my whole teaching and philosophy is that kind of thinking of free birth as the default, like everyone should learn about free birth and know about this, about how birth works and like this whole thing, because even if they're gonna have like a plan to go somewhere else or to whatever birth center
Well,
or
free
whatever,
birth is
because
basically just like not fucking it up.
yeah.
It's like biological birth
Right.
is basically free birth.
Yeah.
And then how much do you want to like intervene and fuck it up?
Exactly. And I think that I I've noticed, I've heard a lot of stories about people's like midwives like being stuck in traffic, or people like on their way to the hospital
Of
having
course, all the
their baby.
time.
And I'm like, you have to first learn about just like the basic biological birth process and be ready to take self-responsibility. And then
Well,
like
that's
if
what
you
no one's
want,
ready to do.
right. And so I want to teach that. I want to like talk about that, like the self-responsibility that has to come first before you
Yeah.
even start thinking about like a birth team or who you're going to invite or who you have there, because
Well, people are so
ultimately,
confused about the concepts of safety and risk and responsibility and outsourcing. And,
right.
again, like we said at the beginning, people are so afraid and ignorant.
Yeah.
The thing that's interesting about self-responsibility is like you can think you're going to get out of it by hiring a provider, but let's say in a in an average birth experience in the hospital, you're abused, you are drugged up, your baby's born on drugs, your baby's separated from you, you have trauma,
Yeah.
inherent to the experience. Who's living with that? Your doctor that just abused you and cut you and drugged you up goes home.
Right.
You and your baby are living with that. So do you get out of it even when you like think you can get out of it? Because you still have
Right.
to live with the
Yeah.
story that you gave your baby and the outsourcing and all of that. So it kind of
Right.
goes in this interesting spin of like, because I've had many, many mothers contact me and be like, I'm not ready to take responsibility for my birth. And
Yeah.
like, okay, great, except that you're the only one living your life. And
Yeah.
so
Ultimately, it is your
what it,
responsibility.
well, and
Yeah.
like even you just don't get out of it, ready or
Right.
not, you don't get out of it.
Yeah, and what I've seen over the years, and actually, when I entered this path, choosing a free birth for myself, I wasn't necessarily thinking that I was going to start like preaching it to the world. I was just like, this is what's right for me. But the further that I get on this path and the more experiences I have with my own birth stories, but mostly with hearing other
Yeah.
people's birth stories, it actually has fueled me to be like, wow, this is so essential to learn this stuff, because I live in a very crunchy alternative like subculture, and home birth is very the norm here. And I could tell you at least half of the home birth stories that I hear end up in the hospital.
Of course.
And that's probably honestly, it's probably more like 3/4 of them end up in the hospital.
Of course.
Um,
Well, but they're not home
and
births. They're
right,
medical midwife
exactly.
supervised, managed.
Exactly. And what I hear in those stories all of the time is the responsibility being on the other people that were there. Like the stories are always like, and then they made me do this, and
Hmm.
they did,
Yeah,
and
because we're
it was
children.
other people's fault that I had this experience. And so
Hmm.
I'm like, my whole thing is like, we have to change the language. We have to totally like re-language how we talk about birth experiences and whose responsibilities and all of
Well, you'll
that.
change
So
you'll
yeah.
change the language when you grow up.
Yeah. Yeah.
The language, I don't know if
Yeah.
the language really comes first. I think it's growing up comes first because
Totally.
saying things like I had to and they
Yeah.
made me is what a
Right.
baby says. That's what a little
Right.
4-year-old says. A grown
Yeah.
ass woman doesn't speak that way.
Right. Totally. And like, I feel like that for me and I don't know why, but for some reason, when I was pregnant with my son and I started learning these things, like I was making that transition from maiden to mother to like coming into, I'm now the parent and I don't have to listen to what my parents are going to tell me to do
Yeah.
about this. Because if I like was still in my child self, then I would have wanted to appease my mom or my dad and do it the way that they would have wanted me to do it, or society. But because I was like, okay, now like I have this child in my womb, I'm now responsible to making like decisions that are not, and nobody else can make those for me. And I think that's a huge thing that a lot of people miss. And I see it all the time, not just in birth, but like in parenting. Like lots of people, oh, I don't like it that my kids are like on these iPads all the time and playing with toy guns. And I'm like, well, why are they? And they're like, because their grandparents gave it to them for Christmas.
Have to. I don't know how to eat a meal without my kid being screened.
Right. And I'm like, okay, well, you have to, like, when did you actually make that shift to like, you're the parent? Your society is not your child's parent. The grandparents aren't your child's parent. You're the parent. So,
or are they? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we have to go.
Like, totally. So that's my whole mission is I'm like, I want to help people like step into that. Yeah. And hopefully before they're pregnant, but yes, exactly. And hopefully before they're pregnant,
if you're listening and you know that there are parts of you that are still a child and you're ready to grow up because you're becoming a mom or you already are a mom, check out Marion's work, join her container, find her on Instagram. Thank you so much. I love the stories. I'm so excited to meet you and your daughters this summer.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for this conversation. It was super fun.
I hope you enjoyed the show today. You can support this podcast by donating to it on freebirthsociety.com and leaving an awesome review on whatever platform you listen on. The more reviews, the more visibility the show gets, so let's spread the word of sovereign birth. We've always got a lot going on at Free Birth Society, and you can find out about all of it at freebirthsociety.com, at Free Birth Society on Instagram, and opt in to my newsletter below in the show notes. We offer courses on free birth, authentic midwifery, and the blood mysteries, as well as one-on-one coaching, in-person retreats, and of course, our annual Women's Festival. Our exclusive, vetted, private membership is definitely something to check out if you're looking for a community of wise sisters. Together we rise. We must speak our stories, claim our lives, and support one another. This is the living revolution, and I am so grateful to be in it with all of you. I'll leave you with our epic Free Birth Society theme song, Wild Woman by Aruba Red.
I honor you for the wisdom you held, the ancient traditions of plant medicine and womb magic. I feel the spirit of the ancestors as I place my hands upon my belly. This sacred portal will be honored. Eons upon light beams of survival, withstanding the eradication of our power by design. I will not allow the separation of our young to be forced upon me. My sisters will no longer birth in captivity. The picket line redefined from burning our wild women to paralyzing us and drugging our babes. Strapped down in a clinical white bed, drying up the milk from our breasts. Keep your needles. My family will never again be doomed to chase those dragons or your poison. We reject your fear. We choose love. Everything with intention. Death, ascension. I will fly and bring her back from the stars.